So oh, got it. Oops. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us as always. And I hope you're staying nice and warm and dry if you're supposedly in the path of this nor'easter, whatever. I'm Bonnie Halper. I write the weekly Startup One Step newsletter, which is the first read of entrepreneurs and investors in the tech press globally. And we also work with entrepreneurs, helping them shape up their pitch decks. And Andrew knows that every entrepreneur needs help with their pitch deck, right? And we want to thank Kettle Space for hosting us and have been hosting us, even when it was in person, when Andrew even spoke in person. But I believe you were an angel investor then, right?
I
Andrew,
was.
Yep, now you're a big fancy VC. So Joseph, tell us about Kettle and how you pivoted during the
Sure, I'll give you the 2-minute overview. So Kettle is now working on software product to help companies return to the office. If anyone has a group of people that they want to get together with, our software product helps, bring them back to an office with purpose and coordination, so people know why they're going to be there, not just showing up and sitting at a desk working like they would at home. So, team could happily give someone a demo if they're interested.
Yeah, what do you think, Andrew? Like that like the idea of that platform?
I mean, I definitely like the idea of helping people figure out and navigate the future of work and what that's going to look like. I think I don't have, I work by myself, so it's it's not, I'm not so involved in these details around back to office, not back to office, but I think teams and companies need to be very intentional about it. They need to figure out, kind of what they're doing in terms of, are we going back to the office full? Are we hybrid? How does that work for people who want to stay remote? How does that work for people who, want to be in the office? I think, younger folks, people who are in the first 2 to 5 years of the career, like being in and around other people and learning those and picking up those soft skills is critically important. What else? Like those are the things that I think are, critical for teams to be thinking about. If they're not thinking about it, then it's going to be challenging when they do get back to the office, because you're going to have your best performers aren't going to be your best performers. They're going to be either the people who, your best performers are going to find a place that values the way that they want to work and works with them, in my opinion, right? So you want to figure it out before they do, because otherwise they're gonna, it's very easy to switch jobs these days. They're gonna, yeah, exactly. They're gonna run.
Oh, thank you. So since last we saw Andrew, he has a new fund and a new baby. And I don't know if you want to go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves first, or you want to tell us about your background in the fund and what you look for.
Yeah, happy to talk a little bit more about the fund. So my background is digital marketing. I spent about a decade in the digital marketing world, most notably, most recently in that space. I co-founded an agency called Agency Within. Grew that to be the largest independent digital marketing agency in the US. Worked with brands like Intuit, Shake Shack, Spanx, Etsy, Agency Record for Nike.com, performance marketing in North America, and then also startups and VC-backed brands like Goop, Rothy's, Helix, Bandier, Zola, Lola, Billy, Petflow, Trade Coffee, and a bunch of others. And then I had a successful exit from the agency in 2018. When I was figuring out what I wanted to do next, realized I got a lot of excitement and passion from working with those early stage startups and teams, especially the founders and founding teams, especially at the really early stages, at that kind of 0 to 1 pre-product market fit, sometimes even pre-product or pre-MVP, and to start to get more involved in that space. And then I went and just started meeting people, going to events like Bonnie's, reading all the industry racks, sitting on panels as a digital marketing expert, going to pitch competitions, and ended up becoming an angel investor, invested in 25 companies, including companies like Lunchbox, who just announced their Series B, Caraway, the kitchenware brand that's crushing it, Branch Furniture, who will announce their Series A soon, Co-op Commerce, who's doing really well, Marpipe, and a bunch of others. So I made about 25 investments as an angel. That portfolio did pretty well, roughly 8x portfolio so far in under 2 years, in under 3 years, sorry. And now transitioned to a fund last year. And the fund is kind of just, for lack of better words, like the angel investments on steroid, just, add an extra zero to what I was doing before. So investing 250 to 500K, it's early stage startups, really focused in and around e-commerce. So direct to consumer brands, e-commerce tools, infrastructure, advertising technology, NextGen Commerce, marketplaces, vertical SaaS, and still really focused on being really early. I over-index probably on first-time founders. I really like when founders have industry market fit and have that founder market fit where they've spent some time in this space for a while. And yeah, that's me. Respond to all cold inbounds. Really try to make myself available to folks, and happy to answer any questions or go from there.
I will say that Andrew's one of the few investors who will take a cold email. And you're very public about that. So guys, you want to introduce yourselves and tell us what you're working on to give Andrew some idea of what your backgrounds are, and then ask questions. Abby, I know you're not shy. I know you'll kick it off.
I'm not shy. I'll kick it off, and I'm always ABB, so I always end up first as well. My name is Abby Sugar, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Playout Apparel. And at Playout, our mission is to lead the next generation of fashion by applying equality to design, shopping, and gender expression. And what this means is we do sell physical products. We raised our pre-seed round last year successfully, 500,000. I am starting to raise my seed round. And Bonnie mentioned before you got here, Andrew, that I'm giving the keynote address for the Founder Institute's graduation next week.
Awesome.
So that's really exciting. We also just got a physical space for a photo studio, as well as having influencers be able to come, and office space and storage for our samples. So that's really exciting. And what I'm really excited about as well is our growth into a whole values-driven shopping ecosystem focused on Gen Z. And that also includes gender equal apparel for the metaverse, because fashion in the metaverse is going to be huge, especially how you can marry, I swear, how you can marry physical products to exclusive access. So that's what I'm big vision here, but it's great to be here. Nice to meet you, Andrew.
That's awesome. It's funny because I definitely saw your, once you mentioned your company, I definitely saw it from Amy Chen.
Yeah, we went to college together.
Okay, so she had sent me. I'm happy to tell you, like, I ended up saying I just don't invest in apparel. I think you're really brave to be working in apparel. Let me just put it that way. I think it's really tough on inventory, tough on fit and returns. I wear a black t-shirt every day. I never care. I think it's one of the big oversights of VCs is like, oh, like I wouldn't use this, so I can't invest. I think that's terribly dumb. So I'm not like that. But I'm definitely not. It's a lot easier for me to get excited about the value add for a marketing platform technology company than it is apparel, right? I wear like literally a black V-neck every day and jeans. But yeah, I definitely see a ton of value in what you're building. I think I know there's also a huge there's also like a cost component to what you're doing as well, which I think is always just being authentic is huge these days, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I'll say
millennials, they sniff out that fakeness very quickly.
And with your, even though your kids are Gen A, technically, if they're very young, what we're focused on is 56% of Gen Z shops outside of their assigned gender. And so, it's really about this completely new shift in consumers. And so keep track of me, because your kids, like I pitch to middle-aged 55-year-old white men and they say, my teenagers are non-binary, my kids are trans, like, you know, what you're doing is necessary. So
Yep. I also I didn't again, like, don't invest in power, so I didn't end up investing, but I remember I spoke to Fluid at one point. I think they're called P8, right?
yep, that's Rob.
Rob at Fluid. Yeah, I remember I spoke to him at one point in the past.
Very cool.
Great to
I'll let the
see,
next person introduce themselves. Thanks so much, Andrew.
Yeah.
Adaro, do you want to introduce yourself?
One second. Can you hear me? Am I off mute?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is crazy. Hi, I'm Adiro. I am the founder of Fairfare, and Fairfare is a direct booking ride share platform. So as opposed to people having Uber, Lyft, Revel, Via on your phone, it would just be all on the Fairfare platform, and you're able to book directly via the platform. We're not a typical aggregator in that we ask users what matters to you most: time, money, or car type. Once a user enters that, we give them what matters to them most, obviously with the option to see everything. And we did this for a few reasons. We found out, did our focus groups in New York with about 400 New Yorkers, and like Andrew said, like, I looked at it like me, like, oh, I'm price sensitive, you know, but everyone's not price sensitive. And we've learned that everyone travels for different reasons. Some people will pay $100 to go 5 blocks if you get them there really fast. And some people are really price sensitive, and some people need a car seat, and some people need strollers and all the things. So we did that to diversify the interface, and also to get the players on our platform so that no one is complaining that they can't compete with Uber, they can't compete with Uber. So that's what we do. We are partnering with HRA in New York City for people who receive public benefits to offer people a monthly credit. We're hoping in the future to have it be free for people who receive monthly benefits, because the price has gone up 40%. Average ride is about $35. And everyone can't afford that, but we feel like everybody needs to get safely from A to B, regardless of your socioeconomic status. So it is a SaaS model. We charge $199 a month for unlimited booked rides, or $19.99 a year for unlimited booked rides, or pay per ride at 75 cents per booked ride. And that's pretty much us in a nutshell.
Very cool. Very cool. And how aside from the HRA partnership, how do you plan to acquire users onto the platform?
B2B partnership. So we have one in the pipeline with Walmart Associates, which is the same demographic as the HRA recipients. Walmart is spending $1 billion a year in hiring associates, just at their associate level. And so they wanted to find a way to reduce that without paying people more money, which is the obvious answer. But so we told them transportation is everyone's second biggest nut. If you absorb that cost, you can extend your retention for at least 3 months. They liked the idea, partnered with Apple, and Apple will be giving associates free phones, because we also found out people don't have smartphones in rural areas, and a lot of places in the United States is a technology dearth. And so Apple gives free phones for 2 years if they stay at Walmart, and Walmart will be absorbing the cost. So we're looking at a lot of like B2B and B2G partnerships. I want to do the B2G in various urban cities, just starting with New York right now, just because it's the hardest in terms of transportation, getting people from A to B affordably. So
No, it makes a ton of sense. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and raising, that's right, sorry, I forgot that part. We're raising our seed round 1.5 million. Did a pre-seed, and yeah, so that's where we're at now.
That's awesome.
Oops, David, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's David Feltzat. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Joey. We're essentially doing kind of direct-to-consumer healthcare. We are essentially, it's two ways. We're kind of an on-demand marketplace and telehealth platform, connecting parents with different types of maternal and child health experts. So lactation consultants, doulas, sleep consultants, and eventually 20 plus other types of allied healthcare providers. Everything from like pelvic floor therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. Basically, our goal is to be the supplemental care platform for families to manage their health kind of in between all the doctor visits that are out there. From obstetrics to geriatrics. We're in private beta. We just finished it up. The great thing about us is, if you have 2 a.m. nursing and sleep issues, you can get help with less time than it takes for an Uber to arrive. So everything's direct to consumer. Everything connects.
Darrow, he's competing with you.
What's that?
So the Darrow, he's competing with you.
I was gonna-
I think the only way we're competing is in the convenience factor. But no, I love what she's working on. That's awesome, by the way. Yeah, and the other thing is that we're doing it with independent healthcare workers. So 66% of ICU nurses are looking to leave nursing, and a lot of healthcare workers are tired and burnt out. And we're helping build software that makes them independent of health systems and hospitals. So they're able to work from home, visit their client's house to do home visits. So, we're trying to bring home healthcare to make it more convenient and flexible and accessible for the workers and families. So we have like vertical integrated software. We're going to be processing insurance claims, different types of telehealth consultations, one-on-one messaging plans, live stream classes. We've got a whole bunch of things in the pipeline. So we're just starting to raise a pre-seed round now, just entered private beta. So yeah, looking to kind of network there and meet more investors and see where we go with it.
That's awesome. Very cool. I made one investment as an angel into health tech and swore it off forever.
Why was that? I'm curious.
It's a company called Aura. They were connecting.
Oh, I know them.
Okay, yeah, they're connecting at-home health aides and agencies with the family of the, generally the elder individual who's being taken care of, and the agency, and kind of connecting all three of them. Yeah, I don't like red tape. I don't like regulation. I just don't like it's hard to fight against some of these things, or work with some of these agencies and governments. And so I commend people who are, but yeah, I just don't have the stomach for it.
Maybe, since we're independent and direct to consumer and don't deal with partnerships, then maybe, this is your chance to give it another try.
What do you think, Andrew?
I'm too scared of health tech to health tech in any way.
Understand.
I also think, I don't know, but there's a few health investors who only do health, and like it's a tremendous, I think it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of GDP. So it's an insanely
18%.
high amount of spend for folks, for everyone. So it's just crazy. But yeah, between insurance and who's paying and the challenges there, and even just dealing with my own insurance, I have a bunch of bills after I had a baby, and I'm just like, you guys didn't put this through insurance. Well, your baby's not on insurance. I'm like, yeah, she doesn't have a social security number until she's 5 or 6 years old. She can't be on insurance. How this system works, even I know that. So I have to deal with that. Even that is too much paperwork and health for me. So yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. So Frank, tell us what you're working on.
Hi, sure. I'm Frank Zhu, and I'm the founder of TASoft LLC. We're mainly doing time series forecasting. Say if you have 2,000 historical points, I can probably forecast next 100 data points with high accuracies. That has just been done just last month. At the current stage, I have done this, several years ago, or about 4 years. And at this stage, I'm focus on the software development. It's highly accurate, but I'm interested in evaluation of the software. So that's all.
Very cool. Interesting. Who's your typical customer?
I am currently I do not have any customer, but I'm not really seeking customer. I'm seeking acquisitions. See anybody really interested, because I'm basically doing practicing this on stock forecasting.
Got it. Okay.
But who would be your target customer?
Pardon me?
Okay. I was going to ask who your target customer would be. I was curious. That's what you wanted to know.
My target customer, I would maybe zero or things like that. Those stock investors.
Interesting. Yeah, not an area I know a ton about, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's it's a generic time series forecasting and based on historical data. So the theory was done about 4 years ago, and I just formulated mathematical solutions very accurately, and it can achieve a correlation rate at 9.9. 100% was perfect, but 0.9 for like 40 days, like 40 days, 50 days, it's really good.
Got it. Interesting.
Oh, excuse me, I have to take this. Tommy, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, thanks Bonnie for having me. Hey Andrew. So I have a background in many different things, a little bit at an investment firm, in finance, women's entrepreneurship and community, startup operations, engineering, and right now I'm working on natural language processing, a subset of AI or deep learning. My startup currently is actually a dating app, and I'm sort of fed up with the experience along with everyone else in the globe. And I would like to make sort of the AI transparent to the users. So we're working on building the software for a private beta and have some interesting models in mind for how we want to approach the space that are pretty different. And that's it. Nice to meet you guys.
Awesome. What is like the biggest differentiator if you have to point to like 1, 2, 3 things between how you're approaching it versus the other people?
Control. So the user has full control over as much as we can throw at them. And because of our model and because of our understanding of the space and people's problems in the space and people's problems using the software, and the result of the way these large companies handle their algorithms, because of our understanding of all of that, the process is going to actually be simple, even though the user has control over the features and the search that they're conducting. So we want to make the feed more sane. And we do that by segmenting the data and making AI explainable. So it's about control.
Very cool.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and also when I was working in investment, I was obsessed with DTC. I'm very curious later to hear what it is to be like an early stage company with DTC and to invest in a very early stage DTC company. That's very interesting to me. So.
I know she's not public about the name of her company, but it's really good, and I'm not going to share it. So I hope I pronounce your name properly. Abhinav. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Currently I'm a computer science undergraduate at Georgia Tech, and my co-founder and I we're currently working on a
We can't.
platform where
We can't hear you.
Yeah, I was going to say we can't hear you.
is and just put their Instagram bio or their Twitter bio and basically sell their services. That's basically what we're working on right now. So we found like the biggest problem is that the music industry is currently 5 to 10 years behind on technology. So a lot of professional studios, a lot of engineers, songwriters, producers currently do not have the technical skills to create their own landing page or website. And so our platform just streamlines that for them so they can just focus on their music and their craft.
Oh, we missed the beginning of your pitch because you were muffled. Oh, Abhinav, we missed the beginning of what you were saying because it was muffled. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I said we missed the beginning of your pitch, what your platform does, because you were muffled. It was bad sound quality.
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I think.
I said when you started your pitch, we couldn't understand what the basics of it were because you were muffled. It was bad sound quality.
Okay, can you hear me now better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, my name is Abhi. I'm a computer science undergraduate at Georgia Tech, and my co-founder and I were working on 808. It's a company where you can basically where musicians can create a landing page where they can sell their services. And right now we found that like the biggest problem in the music industry is that it's 5 to 10 years behind on technology, and they don't have the technical skills to build a landing page or website directly. So we're kind of like a watered down Wix or Squarespace where they can just start selling their services in minutes. They can create this landing page and put it in their Instagram bio or their Twitter bio. And all they want to do at the end of the day is just focus on creating music, focus on their craft. And so we just streamline that process for them so they can start selling in minutes.
Very cool.
So questions, anybody have questions? There are always questions.
I mean, I have a question that goes towards the shift in the marketing and advertising industry that we've been seeing recently. I mean, with Apple's privacy changes, and then, you know, Facebook tumbling, yes, this week. What are your thoughts on that? Or what do you think the next phase is for D2C marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the space literally, I think, let me just see one thing. I think literally 11 years tomorrow. I started working in advertising in 2011, the day after the Super Bowl in 2011. People have been talking about, you know, diversification off of Facebook and Instagram and Google for 5 or 6 of those 11 years. And I think the best companies have been doing that and are trying to, you know, find additional ways. That's where the audiences are, right? So if you are, you know, if you look at, you know, time on site and daily active users and monthly active users, and you slice it for Snapchat and Reddit and Pinterest and Twitter, and then you look at Facebook and Instagram, like Facebook and Instagram dwarfs it. So it's always going to be your best place to go. And so, you know, all the other places never figure it out. So Facebook obviously, you know, got crushed with their earnings. They finally, you know, there's no more growth coming in, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's still almost 2 billion people on their platform, and pretty much everyone you want to reach is on their platform. Doesn't mean you shouldn't diversify and should be looking for other places, whether that's via SEO, via organic, via community, via referral, word of mouth, whatever it is. You know, if your audience is on Reddit, if your audience is in Facebook groups, like I've seen tons of other interesting ways to go and acquire customers, and you should try all of them. You're probably going to, if you can't figure out Facebook and Instagram at some level, it's probably unlikely that you have a venture scale business in the consumer space if you're not spending 6 figures a month at least. And to start, I wouldn't say to start with, But if you're not going to be able to get to 6 figures a month and spend on Facebook and Instagram, you don't have a venture scale business. Very unlikely that you have a venture scale business in the consumer space. So those will still be the huge places. You should do all the other things because sure, it's great if you could pick up, another 4 or 5% of customers from a community that you're developing and managing and whatever. But it's not going to be the place where you acquire hundreds or thousands of users very,
So I absolutely know that I can get a return on spending 6 figures on Facebook. My challenge is, and maybe it's just a matter of raising a large enough seed or series A round, right? How do I go from spending 10 grand, which is what I'm currently doing, right? To get to that space? Is it just company growth?
Yeah, I mean, if you are spending 10 grand and it's profitable, how do you, the question is, there's a curve that exists around profitability and growth, and where do you want to sit on it? Where that's maybe, and it changes over time depending on the capitalization of the business and other factors. But that curve exists, right? Where it's like, hey, do we want to be very profitable but grow slower, or do we want to grow really quickly and be less profitable? And you have to figure that out, and it just depends, right? So there are plenty of companies that overextending themselves, got ahead of their skis, didn't really realize they were just pumping money into growth, and it was not artificial growth, but it was unsustainable because that growth wasn't profitable. So yeah, I don't want to say anyone, but anyone can spend $100,000 on Facebook and do $100,000 in revenue. If you can't do that,
I agree with you. Yeah.
But $100,000 in revenue is 25, 30 grand in profit. So like that's not profitable. So it doesn't,
and
that's not a business.
Yeah, exactly. To that point, what I always say is like, if you let's say, just like you said, $100,000, if I say, give me $100,000 and I will sell $100,000 worth of this super shitty mug, I'll be able to do that because I'll be able to reach new customers and they've never done it before, but you're not going to have the return customers because it's a super shitty mug. If I have the best mug in the world, it holds heat for 24 hours and whatever, but I don't have investment to reach my customers, then I'm not going to be able to sell $100,000 of it until it's just going to be much more slowly, right? Because it's going to be all word of mouth. So yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Mahul got here late, and I mentored Mahul at Founder Institute. So Mahul, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on? Which I know, but Andrew doesn't.
Hi, Bonnie. How are you doing? Thank you so much. So yes, I am the founder of an augmented reality diamond price comparison company where you can try different diamond rings from anywhere in the world, change the diamond shape, carat size, ring setting. We have over $5 billion worth of diamonds on our platform and have been growing around 150% year over year for the last 3-4 years. I've been featured in Forbes, New York Times, Vogue, Glamour, Us Weekly, and a number of other publications, which is good. And Andrew, I had a question for you actually. What have you been seeing lately? That's a new trend that's showing more conversion on Facebook and Instagram. Because I know it's some of the older techniques have been lagging. So have you seen any new conversions?
I mean, I think people are doing a lot more focus on creative as well. Is much more important than ever before. So like that's a huge area of focus for people is how do I go and get more creative and create more creative, and how do I do, whether that's through UGC, whether that's through, working with influencers or working with just my, my customers, and then also how do I go and figure out what is working, what's not working, and so yeah.
Okay, so you're saying more content would be best.
Like you, he has young children in the background.
Yeah, so I'm just saying more content would be better, I guess, because I know Facebook's making a big push on Instagram and for Reels. Have you seen a bigger uptick on that?
Yeah, I mean, Reels definitely creating content that's specific for Reels. It's, you know, saying things like TikTok style ads, or even taking your TikToks and posting them on Reels and on Facebook has worked, you know, has worked really well. So things like that definitely, you know, do help. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else have a question? I do. So I know that you're a very active investor, Andrew. And what are the deciding factors for you when you're meeting with a company?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it has to fit into my investment scope, right? So it has to be early stage, has to be US based. I mean, I can do Canada in theory. And then, oh,
Baby keeping
sorry.
it.
Yeah, young kids. So I think the other thing that I look at is founder market fit. So are this founding team, are they the right team? Do they have these earn to learn secrets, insights about the industry, where, you know, they have unfair advantages just in terms of how they approach the problem, unfair advantages. They know the people in the network, they know who they're going to hire as the CTO, they know who their first 5 customers are. Things like that are critically, you know, important to me. And then are they building a market that's big enough for, you know, a huge outcome? Is the market, you could build a great business in a niche spot, and like, sure, you can always expand from there. But if you aren't building something that can, you know, be big enough to get venture style return, then it's just, you know, not that exciting for venture investors. Just doesn't work with their math.
So has your investment thesis shifted at all, or your focus shifted at all since this crazy time?
No, I wouldn't say that things really shifted. I'd say more, you know, obviously, you know, making investments over Zoom was, you know, something that, you know, I had to get used to, which is always, which was definitely challenging at the beginning. I think, you know, trying to focus on, yeah, I mean, I think understanding just, I was already invested and focused on commerce and e-commerce and just how critical and important that, you know, kind of infrastructure is. I think that's just, you know, realize how I don't want to say everybody, but, you know, how if this, you know, if this had happened 10 years ago, how less prepared we would be just in terms of being able to do things virtually, and how, you know, how relatively quickly people adopted to this new environment, just because a lot of folks, you know, I imagine most people here, I mean, I'm 33, you know, kind of, you know, grew up online, had, you know, people have, you know, smartphones are now, you know, 15 years old. Like it's pretty wild, just in terms of how readily e-commerce was to get going and build in the space.
Anybody else have a question?
So Andrew, can you talk about acquisitions?
What about acquisitions?
I mean, the company are interested in purchasing, you know, some products and based on valuations. Is there something like that?
Is there what?
Some companies, a big tech or big bank or big investment, are interesting on technology product. And so how do they proceed? They can acquire it, they can purchase it, or they can invest it.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not really my space. So it's hard for me to to know or comment too much on that. I haven't gone through acquisitions. I think people acquire companies for, you know, a few reasons. Either they acquire for the technology, they acquire for the user base, they acquire for the revenue if the company's doing real serious revenue. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question about DTC. I'm curious. I know you said you look for people with an advantage industry experience. What type of founder creates a DTC company? Sometimes it seems like their background is completely unrelated, and sometimes it seems like they've been in the space for a while. Is that accurate? And what are some differences that you see in a founder who does a DTC company, particularly in a product versus like software?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, like, I'll give you an example. I met Jordan, the founder of Caraway, in, you know, almost 3 years ago in 2019, pre-product, pre-revenue, pre-everything. And so, you know, he was someone who had spent a lot of time. He was literally CEO of a kitchenware company before going out and starting, you know, his own. Yeah, you know, that's, you know, a huge, you know, huge part of it is when I was going to meet, I was like, does the world need another D2C kitchenware brand? And, you know, there are a few in the space that had like a head start, and it was like, you know, is this something that, you know, kind of like why? And it became very clear after meeting him, like it needed a kitchenware brand built by him. He was someone who was, you know, I'll see D2C companies and in their deck, they'll talk about customer acquisition. And it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to do search, shopping, and Facebook and influencers. It's just like, no, this is what we're going to do on search. Here's 5 clicks deep of what we're going to do. This is how we're going to approach influencer. And this is how we're going to, you know, here are all the accounts we already have relationships with, and how we're going to go and work with them, and what the process is going to look like. Here's what we're thinking about on Google Shopping. Here are the keywords that are going to show up. Here's how we're going to approach, you know, Facebook advertising. Here's how we're going to think about cash conversion cycles. So cash conversion cycles is really important for direct consumer companies that pay for inventory up front and then have to go out and pay for advertising and sell it, and then eventually get revenue. And so, you know, for me, it just showed a level of sophistication where, you know, he was acting like a Series B company, you know, pre-seed, before even raising money. He was, you know, another thing is he raised the first round of capital was around like $1.8 million, and he had raised it from like 50, 60 different people. Like he over a good amount of time. So he was executing on the product at the same time as he was fundraising. And when he was fundraising, he was, you know, gritty as hell. Like he was just going everywhere. And, you know, 5K, 10K, 15K checks from everyone. He didn't care. He didn't, you know, have, you know, any ego or pride around it. He was just, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to build. And, you know, he's proven me right. You know, obviously there's hindsight bias and everything else wrapped up in that, but you know, that founder market fit is pretty important, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. So, and then maybe a short question. So what do you think of the Dollar Shave Club and how they started and the background of the founder?
I don't know too much about the founder, honestly, but I think, you know, I think when you think about like how they started and you know, a huge part of their growth was around, you know, the viral video, and like it's hard to replicate that these days. So, you know, what worked then in 2000, I don't know, 8, 12, whatever it was, it's not going to be the same thing that works today.
Right, right. Well, anyway, I found it fascinating, but I didn't get a chance to. We didn't have early stage investment in any DTC companies, so I find it really an interesting area where you get to influence consumers like so much with such a small sort of footprint when you start. It's just fascinating to me. So DTC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I know with the dating apps, I mean, everybody's coming out with a dating app. It seems, I think the marketing strategy is sort of really capturing my mind right now. And because we have like a few different models and sort of for different stages of the company, I guess it's not something I want to worry about too much until after the private beta. But can you speak a little bit about the landscape of dating, if you've thought about it, or just having an app where there are a number of smaller competitors or iterations on the idea? Like, what is the landscape for if you focus on this area? Bringing out an app, if it were just a regular software app in the dating space, what would be your concerns?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done, I don't invest in dating space. It's just not a space I invest in. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think, like you said, there's a lot of people working on it in different ways, which is totally fine. One thing that I realized is that I looked a while ago at a company called S'more. I ended up passing. I realized that, I mean, I think they're doing well. There is a seed. Is that there's different types of audiences, and everyone's kind of you're seeing a lot of this like bundle and unbundling that's going on, right? People are looking for serious relationships. People are not looking for serious relationships. People who are different demographics, audiences, ages, sexualities, like, and so you're seeing like a lot of niche winners and spaces, and then they're trying to like start a niche and then grow, and then then you have the unbundling again, so it's like a constant thing in this space. And I also think like it's hard to to get to like you can get to good outcomes just because the TAM's huge, right? And will constantly be huge. There's constantly new entrants into the market and everything else. I think like there's a lot of like things that I don't 100% understand about the space around network effects and virality, and like which types of users you bring onto the platform first, and then like all the like industry norms and things like that are really important to think about when kind of looking at some of those elements.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
So, we were talking about timing, and you were talking about Dollar Shave Club and, right time, right market, whatever. And now I see the metaverse launching, and people have been locked down and locked in their homes, and now you want them to live in this virtual world. Thoughts?
For me, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a, I joke, I have a friend that me and him joke, like, we live in the metaverse, right? Like, we're brains, and then we have these physical bodies, and we already live in the metaverse, then you live in the metaverse, right? Like, like, you kind of live in the metaverse. On Zoom is yet another layer. But sure, like, Roblox is great, Minecraft is great. I think what is really interesting about both of the successes in those places are platforms where you can create. I haven't really seen that in the metaverse yet. Again, not an expert, not an area I focus on at all, but I haven't really seen, aside from like, you know, hey, come build a virtual, you know, this in this space. Like, I haven't really seen like anything that where again, like you have that. I think going back to Roblox, Minecraft, like you have a platform that enables people to build and be active in building, you know, the space that they're in versus just kind of like, hey, here's a virtual, you know, hangout spot. Another friend who like is not very bullish on Metaverse, but got an Oculus and says he loves it, says he plays like, you know, ping pong with his brother that lives in Israel on it, and it's like really cool and like works really well and like, so like sure, like those things are interesting. Those things are interesting, are cool, are you know, could definitely yeah, those things can you know, TBD on how like, you know, gimmicky they are and how everlasting their kind of their value is, but they're certainly interesting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's true. There are some elements where it can work, but I can't see everybody be living in this immersive environment forever, which is how it's portrayed these days.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't see it. So anybody else have a question? Who would like some feedback? You have an investor here who's happy to give you feedback. You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with a founder who was saying, oh my God, my investors are like bugging me all the time for this and this and this. And, you know, I thought if they would just leave me alone. Please explain how once you have investment from someone, you have skin in the game. And yes, of course, you're going to be interested and you want, you know, follow through and you want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like investors are gonna need to care, right? Like they have fiduciary responsibility, you know, maybe not if they're angel investors, but you know, if they're fund investors to their LPs and the people who gave them, you know, who made them stewards of capital and everything else. So like it's critical for them to have updates for sure. They shouldn't be, you know, bothering is probably, you know, if you feel like they're bothering you, then probably an issue somewhere. I don't know where, but there's yeah, like that's a challenge. But I think you need to realize, oh, okay, like I've made a deal with them. The deal is that they gave me dollars and I have to give them updates, and the goal for them is for this to, you know, for this investment to be, you know, a fund returner to drive, you know, to drive return for them, and like that's tough and a challenge. So if you got to make the decision before, like, am I getting on the VC treadmill or not? And like once you get on it, you're on it, and it's, you know, it's totally reasonable, fair, you know, depending on how the papers are drawn up, like even legally required of you to give them, you know, updates and information. So I don't think, you know, it's not, they own a piece of the company. They're co-owners in the company at that point. So you need to realize, yeah.
And I don't think a lot of founders do realize that. Some of them think that it's a piggy bank. And, you know, thanks for the money and see ya. I mean, not see ya, of course, they'll stay in touch and all of that, but they don't realize that you have skin in the game and that it's a partnership.
100%. 100%.
So does that change any founders' minds or any questions or feedback from the founders or comments?
I just have a question about just the digital marketing aspects, seeing as though that's your house.
He's the expert.
You're the expert on it. So I'm reading a book that was recommended by, and it's like basically another investor, but it's basically like a book saying to try a lot of different small avenues when you're starting out, like even, and to look at avenues that everyone is not necessarily looking at. So you have like Facebook and Instagram, right? But then maybe you do a Reddit campaign, or maybe you do put a little bit of money into kind of like SEO or affiliate marketing, or those sorts of things. When you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money to do that, I mean, I've researched, and like Facebook really gives like a very small like conversion with their ads or what have you. It's like ridiculous. I'm like, I don't know if I really should allocate any money to that with such a small conversion, because it's really not going to show me or get me anything really of significance until I get larger monies, right, to invest in it. So as I'm reading this book, I'm like, there's like 10 funnels that it talks about of like various marketing. And I'm like, that's expansive, that's huge. And even if it's a little bit of money, it can easily become a lot of money if you're doing 10 different channels, and then just managing, seeing how each one does. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking like, maybe I should just go with the off the beaten path sort of avenues to see if that is a way in which to get the consumer, even though the app in and of itself, we didn't have a hard time, because we did our first pilot at Columbia and the students, and gave them $5 Amazon cards, and it was just like, it like blew up. It was like crazy. So it was amazing what $5 could do. But I totally forgot, being so far removed from that point in my life. But just as we relaunch the app, I'm just trying to think of the most efficient, cost-efficient ways of going about things, and not necessarily the hugest in terms of Facebook and Instagram, because it's like you're a small fish, you know, in the freaking Atlantic Ocean. Like it's too much noise to compete against, I think, on just intuitively when I look at it. I'm like, it's a lot of noise on Facebook. Like I deleted Instagram from my phone because it's too much noise. So I was just thinking, like, when you're starting out, you just want to be that, like, maybe to go the off the beaten pathway, or that everyone.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on how much capital you have. I think the other thing like you can do is to be, are there ways you can do it, and it's not, my insight, but do the things that don't scale first, right? Because that's when it can actually have an impact, right? It's when you have 10 customers, getting another 10 doubles your business. When you have 1,000 customers, there's not so many things you could do that don't scale to get another 1,000, right? So are there things you could do that don't scale early on? Working with schools, universities, going out and telling people about it. Kind of some of that guerrilla marketing. Can you go on, on Twitter and just every time someone posts about like, oh, Uber sucks, like, hey, like you should check out my app, like. Things like that that you can do that are, again, things that don't scale, but can drive, additional conversions and customers. And you can also see like, oh, well, when I posted on Reddit, there's a lot of people talking about this. And this is where, everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but, almost anyone can be your customer. So it's not like, oh, like, but you have to find out, it's not just, these are where my customers are, right? Like these are where my customers are, and this is where they're talking about this, right? If I'm a coffee company, sure, yes, I can advertise on Facebook and Instagram. It's going to do really well. But if I could also find a Facebook group that is just about like all these people talking about their home setups, or their subreddits, where everyone's talking about their drip coffee and how long they roast the beans and this, like, obviously that's if I advertise there, it's going to perform better on a relative basis in terms of, conversion rates. So thinking about not just where my audience is, but where and when do they want to hear about this, right? And so are there times where, maybe it's when people are talking about planning trips, maybe it's when people are talking about, before a snowstorm, like, hey, like if you're going to have to use Uber this weekend, like, just make sure to check prices or check wait times. Wait times are going to be crazy this weekend, right? Make sure to check out our app because it'll find you the best, the best combination of wait time and fees.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you.
Andrew, I had a question for you. Since you're in the digital space, what have you seen from other companies that are bootstrapping or just running everything off revenues that's really shown a high conversion rate and a granular level, like strategies that can be implemented?
Yeah, I think people are being more intentional also just about their funnel, right? Obviously depends, what type of company you are, but if you mentioned you were doing something in the diamond space, right?
Correct. Yep.
So, that's like a pretty considered purchase. I don't know if you're selling to consumers or kind of B2B, but
B2B essentially, yeah.
B2B, right? So it's B2C, okay. Yeah, but even B2C, diamonds are relatively considered purchase, something that people aren't just going online and buying, same day. They're thinking about the purchase and planning it out. So thinking through like how do we provide value to our prospective customers before the sale? How do we do some type of consultative sales, right? Like it's probably tough these days on the SEO front to talk about like the 4 C's or anything like that. I'm sure a lot of the players and the aggregators have gotten to those ideas first, but like there are probably other ideas, right? Like talking about lab grown versus non-lab grown diamonds and difference, talking about some of the trends around different colors that are happening in the space. Are there things that you could talk about? Sometimes it's even like, for lack of a better word, like jewelry porn, right? Like can you show people, just really cool diamonds and really cool products where they want to just follow you on Instagram because you're just posting cool stuff, right? And then when they are in and ready, you're going to be top of mind for them, right? If you're the one who's always posting innovative, whether it's your own product or you're curating and like, yo, check, that's how you can kind of, keep those people without having to, trying to capture them during the acute time where they're actually going through the buying process is always expensive. It works really well, if you can kind of make it work. But if you can kind of be, even before they get there, and they don't actually even go and search because they're just like, oh, I've been following, XYZ for a long time. Like, let me see what they have before I go out and do my search and go anywhere else. And you provide the solution for them. That's always, always great and incredible.
Yeah, that's good because we actually have one of the largest diamond selection for lab-grown diamonds, like you mentioned earlier. So we have really basically the largest selection of them right now. And also with social media, as you mentioned, so doing all that stuff with innovation, all that jewelry and all that stuff. So as well, so we're doing that aspect of it as well. So appreciate it.
Sweet.
Who else has a marketing question? You have a marketing expert here. Great opportunity. Anybody? Or any other question? Or Andrew, any words of advice for founders? Since you've been there, done that, been on both sides of the, well, not that you went out for funding, but you are a founder. And now you're writing checks to founders. What advice? Because it's amazing what they don't know, and they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, I think like if they're going out and raising VC funding, then try and, if you can, get in the heads and understand, get in the heads of VCs and understand kind of what they're looking for. So one of the best books that I recommend, actually offer to buy it for all of the founders that I end up investing in, is Secrets of Sand Hill Road. And then, which is a book by Scott Kapoor of Andreessen. It just gives you a really good insight into, how investors approach this space. One of the things that people don't realize, or oftentimes founders don't realize if they haven't, kind of been there before, is that they're not, you know, when a company is valued for, you know, is raising $1 million, you know, $1 million, you know, or $2 million, $10 million valuation. It's not that they're worth, you know, $10 million. It's that it's a call option on the future, right? It's, hey, investors think that this company could eventually be worth, you know, $1 billion. And so that's the way you have to think about it, right? I remember once I spoke to a founder who was they were raising a $10 million valuation, and like we talked about, yeah, and like if this goes well, and then that, and I'm like, okay, and then what? And then, you know, and they're like, yeah, and then we'll, you know, we could sell for $100 million. I'm like, okay, so you're asking me for where my upside is 10x, right? That's not a good investment opportunity for a venture capital fund. A venture capital fund at the early stages, at pre-seed, seed, they're looking for 50 to 100x opportunities. That's what you need to not just return the fund. You know, if you're making 30 to 50 investments, but to return the fund and actually make money, that's what that's what you really need to focus on. So, yeah.
Good points.
Thanks.
So Andrew, is there a good way to demo your technology and you know any platforms, any places you can recommend?
So showcase what type of tech?
It's as I said, it's a forecasting. It's based on historical data. Well, it's the value. I think it's huge. It's not little.
Yeah, I think finding people and customers to use it is probably helpful.
I'm hesitant to expose that things to other people for customers to use it. Actually, I just want to see how, because there's a lot of things in there.
You got to put your baby out there, otherwise, you know, how are people going to know about it? That's just life, you know?
Yeah, that's why I say, you know, I can use a demo. See, for example, I can tell like 40 days from now, it's that day, the stock is almost, there's maybe 0.5 difference %. People will be interested.
Yeah, you're not giving me enough information to like give you any real feedback here in any way. I'm sorry. Just don't know. You either gotta put it out there and be open to feedback and get people, or if you want to keep things tight to the vest, you need to keep things tight to the vest. You know.
Frank, you're a first-time founder, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There is a process to. You're building a company. There is a process to it. You have to have at least a focus on who your clients or your potential client. Who's going to pay for what you're doing?
Well, clients will be actually it's everywhere, as long as you have historical data and you want to know the future, and those are the clients.
Yes, but you do need to focus. Investors like focus, right, Andrew?
Yeah, right now the focus is for the actually I was improving on for the last several years. It's on stock forecasting.
Oh, stock forecasting.
Yes. So it's now it's like last month. It was the theory was working like 4 years ago. It was right. It's just mathematics. I just keep improving, and just within last month, it's now it's really theoretically whatever. It's a very revolutionary thing, I think.
Any feedback, Andrew? Oh, also, Tara asked, I mean, I know the name of the book. I didn't know who the author was about The Secrets of Sand Hill Road, and she asked if you could put in the chat or mention it again.
Say it again.
Oh,
Secret-
the book you would recommend to all of your portfolio companies, The Secrets of Sand Hill Road. I didn't know
Yeah.
who the author was.
Scott Kapoor.
Yeah, because I didn't grab the name. Oh, there you go. So I didn't know if you wanted to share your contact information. We
Sure.
have a few.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at Andrew at irrvrnt.io.
So if anybody wants to follow up. So we have a few more minutes if anybody has any last questions. If not, again, Andrew, I'll leave it to you to give us last three parting shots.
Yeah, I mean, I commend everyone for being in this space. Like it's a tough, challenging space. In some ways, there's never been a better time to be a founder. There's never been a harder time to be a founder, right? Valuations are good and insane, and there's a lot of value in creating assets, but there's a lot of people. It's very crowded. It's hard to stand out. So I just believe in what you're building, and if you believe in it, keep grinding. Try to take that feedback from folks and be open to it. But I commend everyone who is brave enough to be doing it, because I'm not.
I will make one more comment, and I know that I've been in the space for a long time, and we know that many investors, what shall I say, demonstrate lemming-like behavior, wouldn't you say? And now I see everybody, if blockchain or crypto, a lot of them are heading in that direction. It's like the new shiny thing in the room. Somebody says Web 3.0 and it's like, oh my God, we have to be there. And you're not falling for it. Not everybody does, but I know you've seen that as well.
Yeah, I think there's always something new and hot and shiny, and there's a lot of really interesting things in crypto. I'll leave it to some other folks to go and invest in that space. But yeah, it's just I am very excited about e-commerce and NextGen Commerce and what people are building in and around that space. It's where we've spent the past decade, and yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew, for your time. Again, congratulations on the new fund and the new baby. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And our next, and we even made it on a Friday for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, no, we appreciate you giving us your time. And we'll be back in 2 weeks on Thursday. We do these investor breakfasts every 2 weeks. And we want to thank Kettle Space. Thank you, Joseph. And if anybody,
Pleasure. Sorry, I've been on.
Oh, no problem. And I know we're having storms, so stay safe and stay online, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks on Thursday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for putting this together, Bonnie.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, Andrew.
Ciao.
Bye.